she thinks her dad is a superhero. That is what 8-year-old Emma told everyone, her teacher, her friends, the old man who sold bread on the corner. She told them all the same thing with the same wide, certain eyes. My daddy is a superhero. He never gets tired. He never gets scared. He never cries. And every single person who heard her believed it, because Alex looked the part. He was the kind of man who carried grocery bags in one hand and his daughter on his shoulder with the other. The kind of man who fixed broken things before anyone noticed they were broken. The kind of man who always showed up to school plays, to parent meetings, to 3 a.m. nightmares, with a steady voice and a warm smile. To the whole world, he was unbreakable. But the world had not seen what Sarah saw. She had just moved in next door 3 days ago, and on her very first sleepless night, she heard it, a sound so soft, so careful, like someone trying very hard not to be heard. She followed it to the thin wall between their kitchens, and there it was, a grown man, crying alone at 2 a.m. Who was really behind that smile? Stra could not stop thinking about it. The next morning she stood at her kitchen window, with a cup of coffee she had not touched. She watched the house next door come alive the way it always did at 7 a.m. sharp. Alex stepped out first. He was dressed for work, shirt pressed, shoes clean, hair neat. The kind of put together that took effort. Real effort, the kind that said, I will not let anyone see me falling apart. Then Emma came running out behind him, backpack bouncing, pigtails flying, shoes on the wrong feet. Alex looked down. He noticed immediately. He knelt right there on the front step, fixed her laces, switched her shoes, and looked up at her with a grin so warm it could melt anything cold. Emma grabbed his face with both hands and kissed his nose. He laughed, and Sarah felt something catch in her chest, because she had heard that same man cry 6 hours ago. She did not want to stare, but she could not look away. That afternoon, Sarah was unpacking her last set of boxes when she heard a small knock at her door. She opened it. Emma stood there, alone, hands folded in front of her like a tiny professional. Her eyes were serious and round and completely honest, the way only a child's eyes can be. Hi, I'm Emma. I live next door. My daddy made lasagna but he burned it. He does that sometimes when he's thinking too hard. We're having cereal for dinner. I don't mind, but I think he does. Sarah blinked. Emma continued without missing a beat. He needs help. But he's too strong to ask, so I'm asking. Sarah stood very still for a moment. She looked at this small, serious girl standing on her doorstep, asking for help on behalf of a man who would never ask for himself. And something inside Sarah quietly opened. Like a door she had kept shut for a long time, she grabbed her jacket. That evening Sarah sat at Alex's kitchen table helping Emma with multiplication while something warm bubbled on the stove. Alex stood at the counter pretending to read a bill. But his eyes kept moving, quietly, carefully. To Sarah, he did not know how to feel about her being there. She was kind. That was the problem. Kindness was harder to handle than anything else, because kindness made the walls come down, and Alex had spent 2 years building those walls very carefully. If this story is already pulling at your heart, you are not alone. Hit that like button, and let us keep going together. The next morning Alex knocked on Sarah's door. He stood there with 2 cups of coffee and an expression that looked like it had taken him all night to prepare. His jaw was tight, his eyes were steady, but his hands told a different story. He was gripping those cups like they were the only solid things left in the world. Can we talk? He said. Sarah stepped aside and let him in. He set the cups down on her kitchen table and sat across from her. For a long moment he said nothing. He just looked at the wood grain of the table like it held the right words somewhere inside it. Then he exhaled. You heard me. The other night. It was not a question. Sarah did not pretend otherwise. Yes, she said quietly. I did. Something moved across his face, fast and painful, like a man who had just been seen without his armor on and did not know whether to run or stay. He stayed. I have a favor to ask, he said. And I need you to know it's not something I'm proud of asking. Alex explained it slowly. His mother had been calling every week. His sister too. His neighbors on the other side had already started leaving casseroles at the door, with looks that lasted too long. Everyone around him had shifted into a quiet. kind of worry that felt more like watching than caring. They all thought he was breaking, and the worst part was, he could not afford to let them believe that. Not now. Emma's school had a counselor who had already called once to check in. His boss had offered him leave in a tone that's more like a warning. Everything around him was starting to tilt. He needed people to believe he was okay. He needed one thing to look stable. If people thought I was seeing someone, he said carefully, someone who seemed good, and kind, and real, they would stop watching me like I'm about to collapse. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. You want us to pretend, she said. Just for a little while, he said. Just enough to get them to breathe again. So I can breathe again. Sarah should have said no. Every reasonable part of her knew that, but then she thought about Emma on her doorstep with her folded hands, and her honest eyes, saying he's too strong to ask. She thought about the sound through the wall at 2 a.m. She thought about a man kneeling on a front step, fixing his daughter's shoes like the whole world depended on getting that one small thing right. Okay, she said. Alex looked up. Okay, she said again, I'll do it, and just like that, something between them shifted. Something that had no name yet. But it was there. It started simply enough. A wave from the driveway. A shared grocery run on Saturday morning. Coffee on the porch where the neighbors could see. Small, careful, choreographed moments designed to look like something real. And for the first week, it felt exactly like what it was. An arrangement. A solution. Two adults being practical about a difficult situation. But the second week was different. It started with a Tuesday evening. Emma had a school project due the next morning that she had completely forgotten about. It needed a poster, 3 paragraphs, and a drawing of the solar system. Alex had a work call that could not be moved. He stood in the hallway looking between his phone and his daughter, with the expression of a man being pulled in 2 directions at once. Sarah showed up at the door with colored markers she did not even know she had bought. She stayed until 10 p.m. cutting out paper planets with Emma while Alex finished his call. In the next room, when he walked in and saw them both covered in glitter with Saturn halfway done, and Emma giggling about something Sarah had said, he stopped in the doorway. See, he did not move for a long moment. He just looked at them, and something in his chest cracked open just slightly. Just enough to let something warm slip through. Then there was the Sunday market. They went together because it was the kind of thing couples did. And people would see, but somewhere between the flower stall and the fruit stand, Emma grabbed both their hands at the same time and swung between them laughing. Neither Alex nor Sarah let go. They walked like that for a while. The 3 of them, and it felt so natural that Sarah had to remind herself it was not real. Had to actually say the words inside her head like a quiet instruction. This is not real. This is not real. But her heart was already asking questions her mind could not answer. Alex was feeling it too. He noticed everything about her now. The way she always listened with her whole body. Turned toward whoever was speaking. The way she made Emma feel heard without trying. The way she never once looked at him with pity. She looked at him like he was just a person, not a tragedy, not a project. Just a person. He had forgotten what that felt like, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. Are you feeling this one? Drop a comment below and tell us, are you Team Sarah and Alex? Because this story is just getting started. It happened on a Wednesday after school. Alex was running late. A meeting had gone over, traffic had crawled. By the time he got to the pickup line, Emma was already waiting with her teacher and 2 other kids. She saw him and waved. Then she turned to the little girl next to her and said something Alex could not hear. The teacher smiled, nodded, waved him over. Emma was just telling us about your girlfriend, she said warmly. It sounds like she's really wonderful. Alex smiled on reflex, nodded politely, took Emma's hand and walked toward the car. But Emma kept talking. Sarah made me pancakes this morning. She knows how to flip them really high, and she helped me pick my outfit. And last night she read me 2 chapters instead of 1 because I asked really nice. Alex opened the car door. She sounds like a keeper, the teacher said with a knowing look. Emma beamed. She is, she's like a mommy now. The word hit Alex like a physical thing. He froze with one hand on the car door. Emma climbed into her seat still talking, but he could not hear her anymore. Everything had gone distant and slow and too loud all at once. Mommy. She had said it so easily, so naturally. Like it was a fact. Like it was already true. And Alex felt something rise in his throat he could not name. That night after Emma went to bed, Alex stood in the kitchen staring at nothing. Sarah had left an hour ago. She had been there for dinner again. She had laughed at Emma's joke about dinosaurs. She had wiped the counter without being asked. She had touched his shoulder on her way out, and said, "See you tomorrow," in that soft, easy way that made everything feel lighter. And now Alex stood alone in the dark and felt the full weight of what was happening. He was falling, for her, not pretending. Not performing. Actually falling. And it terrified him, because he had already failed once. His wife had been everything. And he had loved her with everything he had. But love had not been enough to keep her alive. Love had not stopped the cancer. Love had not saved her. He had spent 2 years teaching himself how to be strong alone. How to stand when every part of him wanted to collapse. How to be enough for Emma when he barely felt like enough for himself. And now Sarah was here, kind and steady and real, and Emma was already calling her mommy, and Alex was falling so hard he could barely breathe. But what if he failed her too? What if he let her in and she saw all the broken parts he had been hiding and decided it was too much? What if Emma loved her, and then lost her? He could not do that to his daughter. He could not survive that himself. Cliffhanger. Alex pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking. He typed out a message to Sarah. "We need to stop this." His finger hovered over the send button. If your heart just dropped, hit subscribe. Because what happens next changes everything. He did not send the message. He deleted it instead. Told himself he would wait. That he was just tired. That he would feel different in the morning. But he did not feel different, he felt worse. 3 nights later it happened again. 2 a.m. The kitchen, the same darkness. The same silence. The same weight pressing down on his chest, until he could not hold it anymore. Alex sat at the kitchen table with his face in his hands, and let himself break. He cried the way he always did when Emma was asleep. Quietly, carefully, like even his grief had to be controlled. He did not hear the door open. He did not know Sarah was there until she spoke. "Alex." Her voice was soft, worried. He looked up fast. His face was wet, his eyes were red. There was no hiding it this time, no pretending. She stepped closer. "It's okay," she said gently. "You don't have to do this alone." She reached out to touch his shoulder, and Alex pulled away like her hand was fire. "Don't." The word came out sharp, cold. Nothing like him. Sarah stopped. Alex stood up. He wiped his face with the back of his hand and turned away from her. "You should go," he said. "Alex, I mean it, Sarah. This was a mistake. All of it." The air between them went still. Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. "What are you talking about?" she asked quietly. He did not turn around. "This whole thing, the pretending, letting you get close, letting Emma get attached, it was selfish. I should have stopped it weeks ago." "You don't mean that." "I do." His voice was flat now, empty. "You don't know me, Sarah. You don't know what it's like to fail someone you love. To watch them slip away and not be able to do a damn thing about it. So you're just going to push me away?" Her voice broke. "You're going to decide for both of us that this doesn't matter?" He finally turned to face her. And the look in his eyes was the coldest thing she had seen. "I can't be the man you deserve," he said. "And I won't let Emma lose someone else she loves, so do us both a favor, leave before it gets worse." Sarah stood there for a long moment, tears were sliding down her face but she did not move. "You're not protecting her," she whispered. "You're protecting yourself." Alex said nothing. Sarah turned and walked out, the door closed softly behind her. And Alex stood alone in the kitchen at 2 a.m., wondering if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Cliffhanger. 4 days passed. Sarah did not come back. Emma kept asking where she was, and Alex kept lying. Then one morning Emma found Sarah's scarf on the couch. She held it to her chest and looked at her father with wide, devastated eyes. "Did we lose her too, Daddy? Leave a comment right now. Tell us what Alex should do, because this story is almost over and the ending will break you." Alex looked at his daughter holding that scarf like it was the last piece of something precious. And he realized what he had done. He had been so afraid of failing that he had failed anyway. He had pushed away the one person who had seen him broken and stayed. The one person who had not asked him to be a superhero. The one person who had made him feel like being human was enough. He knelt down in front of Emma. "No, sweetheart," he said quietly. "We didn't lose her, I got scared." Emma looked at him with those wide honest eyes. "Superheroes get scared?" Alex felt his throat tighten. "I'm not a superhero, Emma. I'm just your dad, and sometimes I cry, and sometimes I mess things up. And sometimes I'm so afraid of getting hurt that I hurt people I care about." Emma thought about that for a moment, then she put her small hand on his cheek. "Maybe you should tell her that." Alex found Sarah sitting on her porch that evening. She did not look at him when he sat down beside her. For a long time neither of them spoke, then Alex finally said the thing he had been too scared to say out loud. "I cry at 2 a.m. because I'm afraid I'm not enough, for Emma, for myself, for anyone." His voice cracked. "My wife died and I couldn't stop it, and I've spent 2 years trying to be strong enough that nothing like that ever breaks me again. But then you showed up. And you were kind. And you didn't look at me like I was broken, and I started falling for you so hard it scared me more than anything else ever has." Sarah turned to look at him. Tears were streaming down his face now, but he did not stop. "I thought pushing you away would protect Emma, protect me, but all I did was lose the best thing that's happened to us in 2 years. He looked at her. "I'm not a superhero, Sarah. I'm just a guy who cries in his kitchen and burns lasagna, and has no idea what he's doing half the time. But if you'll let me, I want to try. I want to be real with you. I want to stop pretending and start actually living again." Sarah reached for his hand. "I don't need a superhero, Alex," she whispered. "I just need you. The real you, the one who cries at 2 a.m. and loves his daughter, and tries so hard even when he's falling apart." She leaned her forehead against his.
"I'm not going anywhere."
3 months later, Emma drew a picture at school. It was titled "My Family." There were 3 people in it. Her teacher asked who they were. Emma smiled. "That's my daddy. He's not a superhero, but he's really brave. And that's Sarah. She's really kind. And that's me, and we're all together." If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe. For more stories about the messy, beautiful truth of being human, drop a comment and tell us about a time you had to be brave enough to let someone in. We'll see you in the next one.